Hi, and welcome to this edition of In Focus on Whitewater Community Television, WGTV Channel 11. I'm Chris Hardie, and we're so glad you're joining us for this conversation today. The theme of this show is getting the word out in our community. How do organizations, people, businesses break through the noise to share information about what's happening in our community, Wayne County, Indiana, and the larger Whitewater Valley? How do they tell us about programs and services, products, events, get people to care, get people to show up, and get people to engage? Joining me for this conversation are three wonderful guests, and I want to introduce them right now. We have Nathan Hogg, who's a communications student at IU East, has worked at Reed Health, and has been involved in a large number of community improvement projects over the years. Welcome, Nathan.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
Jeff Huffine is here. He's the co-founder of Iron Gate Creative, which is a branding, marketing, and advertising agency based in Hagerstown, but working with clients and projects all over the country. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you.
Glad you're here.
Thank you.
Alison Zajdel is a nonprofit consultant. She's a philanthropy advocate with the Stam Coastline Family Foundation, and also has been involved in a wide range of community improvement projects and events over the years. So welcome, Alison.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad you all are here to talk about this with me, and I'll give you a chance to introduce yourselves a little bit more in just a moment, but I want to dive right into the conversation. And I'll lay out a kind of premise for this conversation and then kind of get your reactions and observations. My sense is it's harder than ever for organizations that want to tell the community about something they're doing, something they're offering, something that's going on. We all have so much information kind of hitting us all the time. It's nonstop. It's across lots of different platforms and channels in our lives. So for a business or an organization to do that, it's really tough. And for an individual, even someone who really wants to be informed and engaged, it's also really tough. It's a big question mark for me is how do we do that? So that's the landscape that I kind of see. Does that ring true for you all? What do you see in kind of what we're working with?
Yeah. I see it a lot with my clients and even in our research that we've done for our clients, like we get into some branding research and start kind of turning those rocks over, and we're hearing the same thing over and over, and that is like there isn't one centralized place to be able to know what's going on with events and the calendar and all of that. And there's multiple organizations that have calendars and but they have kind of silos, right? Or they have their own purpose or mission, and so it becomes a little restrictive. And also, it's how do you scrape all that information and get it into one thing, and then who manages it, right? That's the other thing too. It's like who wants to take that burden on, that responsibility of being able to manage it. And so, but I've heard it over and over. It is a real struggle.
Yeah.
Because, I think that it also hurts our community because we don't have it, and when I say community, I'm talking about Wayne County overall, and being able to, I feel like that there was a big void once the Palladium item really kind of, lost kind of its presence in terms of what happened with that paper, but also the shift in technology. And so, but we need to fix it somehow.
Yeah. What do you all see in the landscape of getting the word out? Yeah.
Just to kind of piggyback off Jeff, I think that it's, we run in silos a lot of times. And so once we are able to break down those silos and, like he said, find one centralized place where we can go learn about more community events, I think things will run a lot smoother once there's one centralized place. So good point, Jeff.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have found from the nonprofit side too, it's very difficult because when budgets get tight, marketing gets cut. And it breaks my heart because that is how they're finding clients, not just, how they're getting their services out, not just how they're finding donors or advertising. It's really heart-wrenching when a budget, when organizations think of their budget that way as something that's just expendable and they just get rid of the marketing piece and still go on with services, because it's really a critical piece of their mission and ensuring that people know how to get them and how to reach them, how to use them. So we're finding it's not only hard to do, but it's also hard to do then when you have no money, when you have nothing in your budget to do it with. So
it seems like there's always been a temptation to not invest in marketing.
Yeah.
you can feel like, okay, we're in this small community, right? It's like, how hard could it be to get the word out? And I think when we had more public squares, when we had more, if there was the newspaper that everyone was reading and social media maybe wasn't as much of a factor, you could think like, okay, why do we need to spend all this money on marketing? And I've seen organizations struggle with that, even organizations that maybe have someone who's good at marketing. They're like, oh, we really need to spend money on this. So do you all see that in projects you've been a part of, or in businesses you've consulted with, organizations you've consulted with? How much convincing do you find you have to do to say, like, yeah, if you really want to get the word out about something, there is money that needs to be spent. Where you spend it maybe is another question. But yeah, what do you notice about that conversation?
I think that conversation in my line of work happens a lot.
Okay. Yeah.
That's usually front and center.
Yeah.
And we have become HubSpot partners,
Right.
and so that's inbound marketing and digital marketing. And so to be committed to like HubSpot, you have to be willing to spend a certain amount of money to do that. And so that doesn't fit small business organizations. So I'm talking more of like maybe mid-range businesses that could afford. Now there is a free version of HubSpot too that you can do. And it's a CRM, but it's also about the whole thing about the customer's journey and automating the sales process and doing marketing automation.
Well, Jeff, let's use that as an opportunity to introduce you a little bit more. So your full-time job is sitting down, working with organizations, businesses, nonprofits, of all sorts, to help them understand kind of what their message is and then how to get it out in the world. And just to make sure folks are aware, HubSpot, as I understand it, is a tool where they bring some kind of pre-built tools and toolkits for, if you're this kind of business, let's get you out in these areas. So tell us a little bit more about your background, how you came into that line of work and what you enjoy about it. So.
Well, my background is I went to art school and at IU, Heron School of Art, and was the art kid in school, in high school, and all that kind of stuff. And always just loved being able to be involved and work on projects and things like that, use my skills. But from that, it's like you evolve into, they don't really talk about, when you go to art school, they don't really talk about the business side of it. When you talk about commerce, art and commerce and all of that. Yeah. So it's been a journey for me. I've been self-employed for 24 years. And so I had to learn, how to run a business when I was freelancing, but always working for another company. And so, but over time we've grown. And I say all that is because it's like it's changing all the time. Like, that terrain out there in the marketing and advertising communications is constantly changing. We've been through, I can show you how old I am. When I started, there weren't computers. Okay, now I know that might sound foreign to people, right?
We've heard of that world. Yeah.
And people are like, man, you got to be ancient. But, that's for me, I've gone from that to where we are now, talking about inbound marketing and talking about AI and all this. I'm sure we'll probably talk a little bit about AI today too. And so, so we're constantly learning.
Yeah, that's great. Nathan, I want to introduce you a little bit more. You're studying communications here at IU East. Tell us a little bit more about that decision and what path you've been on and you are on in thinking about both this topic and your kind of personal and professional life too.
Yeah, so I'm a sophomore here at IU East, and I've been active in the community, homegrown, raised, I serve on a lot of different nonprofit boards, organizations. I do stuff with Read Health and community engagement. So this kind of outreach, in-person marketing isn't new to me. I've been doing it for a while. So I'm just thankful to have this conversation and to piggyback off Jeff and Alison, just to hear ideas that I may not even be thinking about, and you as well. So I'm looking forward to this.
That's great. Well, I'm glad you're a part of it. So
thank you.
Alison, for you, tell us about how you came to be a nonprofit consultant, what that entails, and kind of the journey, and what gets you excited about this conversation about marketing and outreach. Yeah.
Well, I was an art major in school, and then went right into philanthropy, right into nonprofit work, and became a fundraiser for a nonprofit Cope Environmental Center in town for years, and was there for about 16 years. And a lot of my job encompassed development, so fundraising and marketing at the same time. So we kind of combine those roles together, and that's what nonprofits do. You wear 3 or 4 different hats, and you try to figure out what you can do with it. But I always loved the intersection of those two, being able to help people find a good place to put their investments and put their money, and then be able to show them what we're doing with it through the marketing piece. And I always thought that was just a really nice match. And then I left Cope to start my own consulting. So I now work with lots of different organizations, but I also do a lot of work with Stam Koshline Family Foundation. And through that, some of the work we do is strategic planning. And I do find that the partner that does this work with me, Leslie Volser, and I always find that as we're working through the problems that nonprofit is going through, communication and marketing always comes up. It's always an issue. And then you look at their budget and there's virtually no money in it for it. And so they're seeing what happens when you don't invest in marketing and you don't invest in it, that you lose that ability to get your mission out to people. And it's really, it's hard to watch, but it's also kind of fun to help fix.
Yeah.
Because there are ways that you can not spend a lot. We always, of course, encourage them to spend money on it, but there are some ways that you can make marketing work for nonprofits and keep it reasonable.
So I'm sure you've all been a part of these conversations where you're working with an idea, and it's an exciting idea, right? Maybe it's a product or a service or an event. And for the organization or the business that's working on it, to them, the value is self-evident, right? Like, people are going to love this. Like, they're going to show up and it's going to be a great event. They're going to check it out. Of course they're going to want to buy it, or of course they're going to want to donate. And often then that translates to disappointment if, as you say, they don't end up investing in actually getting the word out. So what conversations have you had, and what are the ones that have not gone so well, where you've seen maybe that little bit of crash and burn feeling? And then what are the ones that have gone well, where you've seen, the tide turn and someone's realized, like, okay, I do need to invest in this in some form or another. And I don't know, any anecdotes or case studies from your experience that you want to share?
So just to share, I think if you don't have a public relations person, somebody that's out in the community, somebody that people know, that those public facing people, for one, build trust. And so I might not, if I've never heard of your nonprofit or your organization, I might not even trust you. And so I think, people like just community engagement people are number one important. I think an organization should always invest in somebody who does engagement, because the valuable lessons and the value that we bring to the community through these organizations is number one. And we've had some tough marketing conversations through my nonprofits that I've been on. And like Alison said, we've seen where they have little to no money in the budget. And I'm like, how are people supposed to know if all you're going to do is make a Facebook post? And it's different for me because I work with different generations. And so the older people that I work with, they don't do Facebook. Okay. And then the people my age, we do Facebook. Middle-aged people do Facebook. Yeah. So it's just like, how do you cater to both? And so I always make sure that I have paper flyers. And then I go to events, hand out those paper flyers, and then spread it out on Facebook. Facebook's more of a hit for me, but also making sure that I tailor to the people who need paper too.
I think that's really key there, though, is he goes out and takes the paper and hands it to a person, because we have found that in the nonprofit world, it's the invitation that matters.
Yes.
So you need the branding, you need the billboards and things to get people to click. That's a legitimate organization. They know what they're doing. They've got their stuff together. But the actual invitation, Chris, I would like you to come to this event. You can sit at my table, that kind of stuff, just goes so far. I think COVID made everybody kind of like enjoy not going to things. And you kind of remembered, I like my house, actually. I kind of want to stay home. And so we're still 5 years later trying to get out of this kind of funk of not wanting to go to things. But that invitation, I feel like, especially in the nonprofit world,
is so
really is so key, and it's the personal invitation.
And just being a face that people trust. I think if nobody really knows you and then you're like, oh, well, we're having this, and they're like, wait a minute, you would never believe we have so many nonprofits in the community, and they do great work, but so many people don't know about the services that they offer. And it's because they don't have somebody public facing, or their marketing just sucks.
Yeah.
Essentially.
You're right.
Nail on the
I
head.
also think you should be aware of your advocates, right? So like a lot of these organizations have a network, but are they really leveraging their networks? And what I'm saying is like there are ambassadors and there are what we call advocates. And these advocates are folks that, they'll say nice things about you. They will push you out there. An ambassador could be like a public facing person like you were talking about. Like maybe you would have some people like make a list of advocates, ambassadors, and like be deliberate about like trying to leverage those and also leverage your relationships with other organizations, right? Because they can also advocate for you. And so you can do this kind of shared thing. You don't have to pay a lot of money for that kind of stuff. It's just a matter of being able to like be thoughtful about that and being more deliberate.
Yeah, I imagine people worry if they hear you saying you need to make the personal connection. Well, how am I going to scale that? How am I going to go out?
Yeah.
And if I'm trying to launch a lawn mowing business or something like that, and I'm trying to reach all my potential customers, I can't go door to door for that. So I really like the idea of both making that effort, but also thinking about scaling it with cultivating those relationships with other people who are going to advocate for you, tell your story a little bit. And a lot of what we're talking about is storytelling, right? It's,
it is.
how to help people understand what you're doing in a way that relates to them and maybe feels a little bit personal to them. So
It's really like it's the difference kind of between branding and marketing. And I always like to kind of use the example of like marketing is like I invite you to the dance, right? But branding is why you say yes, like why you might go with me. It's about reputation or how we connect emotionally somehow.
Yeah.
Or my story, or I know your story. Probably more importantly, I know your story. And so that's important.
we mentioned Facebook, and I think there was a time where you could say, let's put it on Facebook. And that was a great way to reach a lot of people at once. Obviously, things have changed and evolved. And Facebook, for a lot of people, it's overwhelming. There's so much on there. And there's this sense that, if you put something out there, maybe it will get shared and liked and distributed, and it can be a great way to do it. Or it will completely go quietly into the night and no one will ever know about your thing that was on Facebook in all sorts of ways. So, but let's talk about, we have so many channels available to us, right? There's social media, not only Facebook, but these days video platforms. You have TikTok and YouTube.
Right.
You have the Twitter equivalents. You have direct mail. You can, actually still print a thing and try to mail it to everybody in the Whitewater Valley. You have email mailing lists. You have paid advertising with newspapers and radio and billboards, websites, earned media, trying to do something fun and creative that catches people's attention. You can call people, right? You can set up a phone bank. There's the whole neighborhood, friends, family kind of grapevine. So in your experience, what do you find to be the channels that work well for certain kinds of get the word out efforts? What are the ones that you're kind of saying, okay, let's not mess with that much anymore? So yeah, Nathan.
First of all, I think knowing your demographic and who you're catering to is going to be key essential. So like I said, younger people, I send on Facebook, I have the Snapchat, I have Twitter, Instagram. So that's how I'm able to send it out to people my age. And I'll tell them to reshare it. They reshare it with their friends and it goes on like that. And so, but then like, for example, our Medical Monday attendees, we have to mail letters. And so I spend a whole day doing that. I mail like 90 letters to these individuals. And then they hang it on their refrigerator and then they call their friends to tell a friend to tell a friend. So like I said, it's just the who you're working with. One thing that's worked well with some of the nonprofits that I serve on is we work with Primex and we will have yard signs printed. And so we will go to like hot spots. I call them hot spots. So like South 16th and E, right there's a good spot. On the north side, on West Main, on Henley Road, just some of those different areas. We will get some stakes and zip tie the yard signs to the stop sign, so that way people are looking at it.
Okay.
It's probably cost maybe $60 or something like that, but that's an inexpensive way to get your marketing out, because we're all going down these streets. So then we're able to look at them and say, I've seen that. And then I've learned too, it takes about 7 times for you to see something before you'll remember it. So just, keep sharing it. We call community members. We go to barber shops, pretty much anywhere where I think that it's going to fit, I'm there.
That's great.
Yeah, I think the goal is to be unavoidable, especially if you're nonprofits. You just try to just be unavoidable. We use some of kind of the old school methods that still work really well. I still am a believer in printing invitations and sending invitations, like you said. You spend the time to do that. I always hear Ginger Gray's voice in my head saying like everybody loves a theme, everybody loves a theme. So having it so that you're seeing that kind of image everywhere, whether it's on paper in that invitation you got in the mail or elsewhere. But we also use things like the marquees. The businesses and nonprofits will put information up on their marquees for nothing. You just send it to them, and every time you see it, if you're at the stop sign, there's that again. I got the invitation in the mail. I see it again there. And then I see it on the courthouse lawn, and that repetition, I think, is what matters. And then if they associate that with the billboard campaign that you did or the TikTok campaign that you did or what have you, there's that stability in the back of your head of this is not kind of a fly-by-the-night organization. This is someone with stability. So, yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say that I think that you had mentioned it, what you were saying about really kind of knowing your audience, because on social media there are different platforms where certain age groups or certain types of people are gathering, and so it's important to know that. And also I feel like that you can't use the same message like to all those different platforms. I see this a lot because it's a lot easier to do, because maybe you write one post and then you just push that post out across like all your platforms, and it's like you shouldn't be doing that. I mean, I know it's like he's going to make me do a bunch of extra work here while he's saying, but it's like really trying to be targeted about where and who you're trying to talk to.
Yeah.
And you should be talking differently. You shouldn't be talking the same way to your client.
I like that.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I like that you said that. So for me being a communications major, I think language is so important and we overlook that. And so like you said, I'm not going to send a one-page report for you to come to my event like I might send to Western Way News asking them to highlight in the paper. I wouldn't text that to my friend. So I think, like you said, just how you message it, how you say it, what's going to be going on. Gift cards, lunch, those are two of the main things that people like to see too. So if you say that you're going to have lunch and gift cards are going to be there, then they're there.
Yeah. But I also agree with what Alison was saying too about a mixture. It doesn't all have to be new media kinds of things. Mm-hmm. You can still do things the old-fashioned way that work in tandem with this. So having a mix, I think, is important.
It's a good reminder that there's such a wide range of opportunities, level of investment, and the kind of marketing that you do. Mm-hmm. I think about events as a good example, because I think we're in this era now where there's a lot of these kind of headline events that I think a lot of nonprofits are putting on, right? Where it's a theme, it's kind of a big splashy thing. It's a gala or a fundraiser, and those are amazing, and they can be really fun. I think they're also pretty expensive to put on. And I think, an organization might look at that and say, well, I don't have the $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 to spend on, renting out an event center and putting this on. So, how can I compete with that? But there's a version of an event you can do that, is right for your organization. It's right for your budget. You're still going to need some kind of effort behind it to get people there. Do you all worry, with something like those events, and again, not to put down the organizations that are doing those, but if we see more and more of those, and there's this kind of ramping up of, okay, this event needs to be more splashy or more interesting than the last one, do we reach a point where there's like a saturation, and this could be true with events, it could be true with other kinds of marketing, a saturation where people are like, I can't do another one of those, right? I just can't, get another invitation on one of those. So how do we think about that? How do you advise your organizations and businesses you're working with on that? Yeah,
I think coming up with just new ideas is going to be key. So for instance, I serve on the Black Legacy Project Board, and recently we just held our first Black Expo here in Wayne County. It's never happened before, but we've had other events that tailored to the Black community, but nothing like an expo.
Yeah.
And so I thought it was important to have, and so we chipped in. And I think the other thing too is if you're a nonprofit, consider having people who are maybe that work with an organization that are going to be aligned with your mission. Have them serve on your board. Have them come to an event, or get your message out that way, because that's so important. So, like because I'm a student at IU East, IU East supported the event. I was able to work with them, and stuff like that. We had healthcare, and I do a lot in healthcare. And so I was able to get some of the health centers to come. And so I just think having people who are aligned with the mission will also help get some of those funders. But yeah, to your point, there have been events that you're like, oh, I can't take another one of this. But, just switching it up. And so one of my favorites is like the Girls Inc. dinner, and how it was just so, I didn't feel like it was just another dinner that I had to go to. The decorations were amazing. Like, I absolutely loved it, coming in, being able to dress up out of the norm. Or Kaleidoscope's another one where I don't have to dress up out of the norm. I can wear something flashy, and so that brings a new perspective.
There's a common phrase that a lot of people have heard, but it's called death by events, and it's nonprofits have this a little bit of an addiction to, if I do this event, I'm going to wind up with the $25,000, $30,000, $40,000 that somebody maybe like Boys and Girls Club or Symphony or somebody ends up with. It's all about the size of your staff and the size of your volunteer base. And if you are a small organization with a limited volunteer base, we really caution them against doing those huge events, just because they are exhausting, and they can not just not make money, they can lose a lot of money if you're not careful. And if you are not prepared to put the marketing into it, and if it's not a part of that budget, it's not worth it. So spending my career in fundraising, I kind of liken it to I'd rather sit down with somebody, build a relationship, and ask them for a $5,000 gift than put my staff through heck and back to maybe make $5,000 at the end, which I have to then do again next year. But now I have this relationship with this person. They know what we're doing. We have this camaraderie, and they're excited about our mission. That is a much, much easier way for an organization to stay afloat. So events are wonderful. I do think we are close to saturation in Richmond, but we have had some organizations back up and change, like Nathan said, change what they're doing. Cope Center went from they're doing a birdathon, which is really cool because it can involve, it's an event, but it involves people from across the country. Yeah. So they've really thought differently about how do we not just always put a bunch of people into a room? How do we think about ways to engage all of our members that are, some are in England. We have they have some everywhere. So it's just, I totally agree with Nathan, people thinking outside the box, because I do think we reached saturation, and we're now maybe at a more comfortable level, I think, than we were a couple years ago.
That's great.
Yeah.
And there are a high number of nonprofits in Wayne County.
I think we have over 400 in Wayne County, just as nonprofit.
So that's a lot of people vying for followers, vying for donations, all of that. Yeah. So it can be a real challenge. I just went to the Chamber's annual dinner, and they went to a larger venue, which was impressive. But even going to that, attending those over the years, you've seen them have to make changes, having speakers, not having speakers, how they serve the food. Everything about it seems like they're changing and trying to keep it moving, and trying to listen to people too. But I think that truly is it's definitely a struggle.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take a quick break. You are watching In Focus on Whitewater Community Television, WGTV Channel 11. We're talking about breaking through the noise, getting the word out in Wayne County, and we're going to continue that conversation in just a moment.
On this month's episode of Access to the Arts,
Jessica Raposo, who is chair of the Fine and Performing Arts here at Indiana University East.
We always here at IU East want everybody to have opportunities, so we're doing what we can to help them.
Speaking with Assistant Professor of Fine Arts, Carrie Longley. Good to have you back on the show. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
watch Access to the Arts on Thursday nights at 9 p.m. on WETV Channel 20 and on the WCTV YouTube channel.
I'm Alfredo Diamond, local realtor, entrepreneur, and community advocate. And I want you to know that I dream big. And for those of you that dream big like I do, I want you to tune into my new podcast, Diamond Podcast, where I'll be interviewing people that dream big just like I do and capturing their stories through my interviews. tune in to our podcast on Tuesdays at 10:30.
Join WCTV as we help IU East jam the gym for the River States Conference opener for the new Red Wolves men's volleyball team. Join us in the Student Event Center on the IU East campus for the conference opener for the latest IU East sports program. Jam the Gym, Friday, February 21st. The match begins at 6:30 in the Student Events and Activities Center on the IU East campus. But if you can't make it to the gym, catch the action live on WETV Channel 20.
SmartHub is a web and mobile app that allows you to do business with us like never before. You can manage your account, view and pay your bill, monitor your uses 24/7, report outages, and receive important notices, all in the palm of your hand. You will be able to save time and money with features like paperless billing, autopay, and much more. For more details on SmartHub, visit us online. Presented by Richmond Power and Light, your locally owned electric utility, building Richmond a better tomorrow.
Welcome back to In Focus on Whitewater Community Television, WGTV Channel 11. I'm your host for this edition. My name is Chris Hardie, and I'm joined by my guests, Jeff Huffine, Nathan Hogg, and Alison Zajdel. Thank you all again for being a part of this conversation today. We're talking about how to get the word out about what's happening in Wayne County, how businesses, organizations, event planners, individuals can break through the noise and help people understand what's happening, what they're offering. It's been a great conversation so far, and I want to pick up where we were just at, kind of talking about events as an example of something you can invest a lot of money into, invest a lot of time into, try to get people to show up, try to spread the word about something you're doing. And it kind of leads to the question of how you measure the success of what you're doing. Again, I think for any business or organization, you want to make sure that you're not losing money or you're investing so much time in trying to get the word out for minimal benefit. And Jeff, I know your agency kind of works with clients and talks about measuring outcomes or results of a given campaign. How do you all think about that and advise people on that?
Yeah, as we write strategy, we always talk about the KPIs or
what's KPI?
So it's a key performance indicator.
Uh-huh.
And a lot of times what we do is try to establish that with our client to, we want to measure we want to manage expectation, but at the same time have a realistic idea of like what are our goals and what are we trying to achieve here. And so the KPIs, if you're working for a healthcare client, it might be about their census numbers, mm-hmm. right? Or if you're working for a for-profit company, it might be about their monthly sales or the number of leads that you have to generate for them. We get into a lot of lead generation for some of our clients through HubSpot, and so we'll talk about the KPIs that we would be doing there. Another one might be net promoter scores, right? So net promoter scores are where you send a customer a quick email that would have just a simple one question. And the question is, this is after they've had your service, or maybe it's ongoing. So maybe you give them one every month and you just take the temperature. You ask them, would you refer our organization to a friend? Or, and then it would be on a scale of 1 to 10, mm-hmm. right? And if it's 6 or above, that's considered good. From 8 to 10, that's an advocate. That's somebody who might do more. They might be an ambassador for you, or they might give you a testimonial. Also, leave them a place in there where you can let them make a comment, mm-hmm. right? Because now you have a comment that you could use online, in your communications. Yeah. But then you can go back to them, depending on what they said, and if they said something bad, then there's a chance to fix it, mm-hmm.
So gathering feedback's a really
yes.
important mm-hmm. part of the getting the word out process, because you're going to learn about what you've already put time and money into, and that might inform what you're going to do in the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
In the nonprofit world, again, a similar question, is it all about generating donations? What else do you measure? How do you gather that feedback? Examples from projects either of you have been a part of?
Well, I think what Jeff said was priceless. The testimonial thing in the nonprofit world, I think, is huge, and it's huge for both the donor side and for the participant side. So if you have somebody who's both a donor and a participant, or who is a donor that saw a participant and it made them feel great about their donation. Asking those advocates to be able to use their image, use their quote, and then just put it everywhere, I think is really powerful. We should take advantage of the fact that we are in a small town. And if I see Chris's face somewhere talking about a program or talking about a service, I am more likely to trust that service because I know Chris and we all know each other. And so I think we should really just be hitting that hard. I think testimonials in marketing are just golden. On websites, on flyers, on postcards, social media, wherever you can get them. So that for me is, I think, really, really, really important and underutilized in town. I don't think we do it enough. Yeah. And whether it's about making that gift, like you asked, whether it's about making that relationship or finding the clients, it almost always proves that the work you're doing is right and good. So
to just kind of piggyback off Allison, I like how she said that testimonials are very underutilized, and that is so true because, I'm more liable to trust a service or to go somewhere if I see somebody that I know has benefited. And so one thing that I do when measuring success with the boards that I'm on, I always ask, let's send out a survey. When I'm by the door, if we have an event by the door, I'll ask people, what did you think about it? An exit interview, we're just whatever, is so important. And like you said, we do not use that enough. And so I think if we want to get to a place where people are starting to support, starting to come, we have to get in a space where we're sharing testimonials for people who reap the benefits of said program or event.
Yeah. All three of you have talked about the importance of that individual connection, the personal connection and authenticity. I wonder, it feels a little bit like we're in this era where people are more aware than they've ever been about being marketed to. There's a little bit of cynicism or skepticism, and it used to be a car commercial would come on and it's it's painting this picture of your life. If you just buy this new car, you're going to be happy in all these ways, and those kind of emotional hooks would work, I think, for a lot of advertising for a long time. I don't know if it's people are more skeptical, more savvy, whatever it is. How do you find the balance in the marketing, advertising, thinking that you're doing of finding authenticity, being persuasive, but not going to the point where people are just like, they're trying to sell me something, or they're trying to hook me in, and I can't handle that right now, or I don't want that. How do you find that balance?
I'll tackle that one first.
Yeah.
First, I think what's important is everybody has a pain point, right? If you look at what you do, you're trying to solve probably your product or service will solve a problem for someone. So it's like really understanding like who your client or your clients are or your customers, but also understanding that they all have a pain point. And if you know what that pain point is, you can talk very relevant to them. You can be very authentic because it's like you're going to get on a very kind of intimate level by being able to, first of all, show empathy, but also talk to them in a way that you can help solve their pain. That's powerful.
That's powerful.
Because I'm going to say, as a consumer, they get me, right? Like that brand gets me. They're talking directly to me.
Yeah.
And so it's like getting on that level with someone and understanding, breaking that down. And that's why strategy is important, is like really breaking down those target segments, those of audiences, and really understanding the kind of the psychology behind who they are, what motivates them, what their fears are, and what their pain points are, their struggles.
I think getting to understand, I think there's been a key common theme here is advocates. Find out who your advocates are for your product or your service, and then that way you're not having to say what as the owner or the manager or whatever, you're not having to say it. Now we're on the back end and somebody else is saying it and somebody else is promoting it. I've seen a lot of nonprofits thrive through that is because they've taken somebody, they've mentored somebody's benefited from the program, and that person is, they're talking about it all day long. And then now other people are like, hey, I heard about this. How can I benefit? Yeah. So the advocate is so important. Find somebody who is going to champion for you.
Absolutely.
I'm thinking about your question about when is it too much and like when is it coming at you too much. And I think about when we talk about personal and advocates and things, small nonprofits have a really hard time of diversifying their marketing and doing a lot of different things. So you for instance think a QR code is just the way we're going to do it because it's the easiest way and it's just the way we're going to do it. But if you hit my mom with a QR code 7 times, she is over you. She is not, she's not giving you probably a second chance anytime soon because you weren't paying attention to, at least, even if you don't have the money or the time to figure out exactly what Jeff wants, you can at least send Jeff several different things so that he's not being nailed with something over and over again that doesn't work for him.
Yeah.
So that diversity, and it's hard for small nonprofits to figure out what to spend money on and what to spend time on, but it does seem like you will figure out through those mailings what Jeff, or through those avenues, what Jeff reacts to. He may be my biggest supporter on Facebook, and I may see his name just cheering me on the whole time. Okay, now I know what Jeff likes. So it's tricky, but you do have to. Exactly. You got to know your audience, man.
And finding out, like both of you guys said, finding out what somebody likes.
Yeah.
If somebody doesn't like cats or doesn't like dogs, or doesn't like animals, period, I'm not going to be hammering them trying to buy my stuff. It's like, no, that's not what that person might want. And so I think it's important to, identify what people like. And like she said, if somebody's liking my Facebook post and they're hearting it and they're just rooting me on, then I know they're interested in me and they value what I bring to the table. And so that's going to be somebody I'm going to align myself with. I think that's important.
And they like receiving their information through Facebook. So you can feel like you've had,
I want to ask for each of you kind of personally, and obviously I publish the local newspaper, so I'm a little biased in this question, but I believe in the power of newspapers to get the word out. But where do each of you get your information about what's happening here, what's going on that you need to know about, and how do you avoid information overload in that? How do you stay engaged and connected without it being too much? And again, there's no right answer, but Jeff, we'll start with you.
That's a good question. I've been in business for 24 years. I have a pretty nice network of people. So if I start to hear things, I'll start maybe trying to call my network to try to, when I'm talking about on a local level, maybe trying to get more information. Like, who do I know through my network, and can they help maybe shed some light on what I'm hearing, or just to kind of qualify all of that. That's one way that I work. The other way is there are institutions here that do a nice job of putting out content that's related to them. So I follow a lot of those really close.
Yeah, great.
And I watch and I read the Western Wayne News, and I watch WCTW.
Yeah.
What's been really nice is like being able to see town council and council meetings, and to even see the county council too.
So it sounds like streaming a video is helpful to you. Maybe I'm hearing you say like email messages coming in, if they're like emailing stuff around. Are you a social media person? Do you spend time there?
Well, probably more for business related things.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, it can be overwhelming, like if you're working in it too, and then go home and do it. And so, but
sure.
I watch social too.
Yeah, great.
Well, I was going to say, I personally reap the benefits of organizations like Western Wayne News and WCTV, because then that allows me to not have to be everywhere. And my physical body don't have to be everywhere. And so I'm able to read about it, or I'm able to watch it. And so, and then, some of my other mentors, if they're in meetings that I'm not in, then they're able to break it down, because people my age, we're micro learners. I want to hear something in 1 minute. I want to be able to grasp the point of it and be able to expand on it from there. Like in the national stuff, we're big TikTokers, love my TikTok. And so I like to watch 3-minute views. I don't want to go online and read all these reports. I want to know, I want to be able to read it in a page and find out. And then it's up to me to do my homework and find out what's actually true, pick apart from there.
Is there a strong Wayne County presence on TikTok, would you say? Yeah. Organizations, businesses, individuals, and so learning about something happening, you might see it go by mixed into the rest of your feed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, and for a lot of my friends, because I'm everywhere, they think I know. And so if I don't, like I said, I'll go right to the Western Wayne News, or I will go to WCTV or call somebody, or call my network and find out what's going on and then share. So a lot of people that I'm friends with or close to locally, they get their news through me because they know that I'm active and they know that I will know.
That's awesome. Alison, what about you?
I am every organization's worst nightmare because you have to hit me like 7 times with something before I will register for that event or remember that program's happening. I'm the reason that organizations have to do all of those methods. But I think there are a lot of people like me who are busy. They've just got a lot going on. And so seeing one billboard isn't going to do it. They got to see that billboard and receive the invitation in the mail. And then Nathan's also got to call and say, hey, are you going with me to that event? I need it over and over again. So I am on social media. I do have the benefit of working with Stam Koshline Family Foundation. So I have 30 organizations that I'm in a relationship with. So we do get a lot of information that way. But if I weren't in that scenario, it would be social media and billboard and Western Wayne News and Nathan like I have the memory of a goldfish, so it's very difficult. So I have to work at it to remind myself, sit down, make that reservation, or oh yeah, that program's happening.
And I learned from my professor, the professor of marketing here, that you have to see something 7 times before you will remember it. And so it's
not just me.
In my marketing mind, when I'm doing marketing for nonprofits, I always say, make sure that somebody will see this 7 times in 7 different places. That don't mean posting on Facebook 7 times.
Right.
Like the yard signs, back to the yard signs, that's such an effective way of marketing. I mean, it really helped our expo.
I have a couple different clients that swear by yard signs. They get a lot of their leads and new business through
It helped the expo.
Yeah.
Well, and we at the Western Wayne News, I mean, we have people, they'll call us with an interest in advertising and they kind of like, want to do one ad, a small ad, and we're happy to do that. But if they're, trying to make a splash, trying to generate interest, my counsel to them is usually like, you need to build awareness over time. And that's going to take an investment. That's going to take some time. It might bear repeating or multiple places. So with all that said, we've clearly established, I think, among the group of us that you can't just do it once. You can't just do it in one channel, one medium. So if you are an individual, an event planner, a business, a nonprofit, you've come up with something you want to tell the community about, and you need to find a way to get out, get the word out pretty quickly, let's say a low budget, where would you tell people to start? I mean, again, knowing the advice is going to be generally like, it's going to take a lot more than that, but where do they start? Like if they want to tell the community about something new,
So I would suggest maybe for your vision or your nonprofit, a lot of the nonprofits are closer than what we think they are. They, essentially there's only so many people in this community. So you're not only serving one person, like there are multiple people who are being served through different nonprofits, if that makes sense. And so I always tell people, get in line with another nonprofit who's doing similar work, because they might have a client base that you're not in tap to. And so then just sharing the resources, I think that will be the most important thing.
I'm a big fan of immediately when something is established that somewhere you get an online presence for it. So if you're planning an event or a program or something, it's either posted on Facebook or on their website or what have you quickly, just because I feel like we have several generations right now where if they hear about it, the first thing they do is they jump online and try to research or try to find it. And if you're not there yet, you've just lost that 1 second that you could have hooked them. So the second you have enough details to get it online, and sometimes you can even have it online and say registration coming soon or something, even if you're not ready for that registration part. I just feel like we're all very quick to grab our phones and look something up. And so if you haven't done that first, you're really missing out on a lot of audience. So that's pretty important.
And it creates opportunities for people to learn about you, just to state the obvious, when your staff isn't available, when your office is closed. They can do the thing at any time, night or day, and learn more and spread the word without you having to lift a finger. So that's really important.
I think to piggyback on what they said, I strongly push, developing that database of your memberships, your organizations, and all the folks, your donors, your followers, all those people, and and pushing out emails, pushing out. There's ways you can communicate that won't cost a lot of money. It's just going to cost a lot of time. It's just going to take you time to do it, right? And but there are ways to reach people, and to start to try to get that out, and then to nurture those people, to maybe ask them to also help promote it and push it out further too.
Yeah.
I think also just noting that a lot of people, if you want support, you have to give support. And so what I mean by that is if I want people to support my nonprofit, I have to be willing to share my resources and support others. So like, for instance, I'm part of the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention. It's an Indiana chapter, but we have an East Central chapter. And so a lot of people might not know about AFSP because they're not local. We don't have a building, nothing like that. But I always, if I'm at the farmer's market, I'm handing out flyers, the 988 cards, and those have been huge lifesavers. Like I said, I have to be willing to go and show my support in order to get support. I think that's where a lot of people miss out on too.
So yeah, just popping up out of nowhere and saying, "Hey world, promote my thing," or "Come to my thing," and you've not done anything to provide that kind of support or spreading the word for others. It can be a tough.
Show your face.
Yeah.
Show your love. I mean, a Facebook post, sharing your Facebook post is free. It costs $0 to do that. And you're showing support. It don't always have to be, I'm handing out a big check. Show your support how you can. Show up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the few minutes we have left, I want to talk a little bit about what's ahead. I think we're all talking about this trend with AI right now, and there's some temptation. It's some people say it seriously, some half jokingly, like, oh, we'll let AI handle all of our our marketing and promotional efforts. And I think there's probably something to be said for having great tools to help you develop marketing copy, marketing ideas. My sense is, just as a technologist myself, like AI is not going to replace the humans who are doing this creative work. But what ways have you seen AI in use? Have you used it yourselves? Good, bad? Anything that you want to say there about how it's affecting this work and this thinking?
I can. We just did the meltdown, and I don't use AI very often, but my daughter does.
Sure.
A lot. We made signs for sponsors, and she was able to use AI to come up with very catchy, cute phrases to incorporate the sponsors into the chili cook-off. And just little banking on a win for First Bank, things like that. Those are, if you're not a phrasey, catchy type of person that just doesn't come to you naturally, I was shocked with how good of the quality of what she was coming up with that was coming out of AI. Now, she had to filter through some things, but there are people that just doesn't come to them. And sometimes I really struggle with that. And so to be able to use AI for a little bit of that catchiness and phrasing was really surprising to me. So that was something that I just kind of learned of. I didn't even think about AI being able to do this, but it was cool. So I was really happy to discover that. But we also, this isn't AI, but technology, I do feel like it is making it easier for nonprofits to look professional and taking advantage of AI, whether it's the phrasing or Canva or things like that can help you look a little more professional if you don't have the funding to go to an Iron Gate and say, we want to look really good. At least don't put out a typed document that has clip art still. Use something to help yourself feel, because the technology is there right now.
And it's free.
And it's free. And, it doesn't replace branding campaigns in my mind, but it can make that flyer look better and make you look more professional. So
I promise I don't use AI being a student. I don't plagiarize, but I do think that AI is here and it's here to stay. And, I think we have to embrace AI. I'm not very wordy. I suck at names. I always tell people that. But, I'm working on another event. And so I looked up AI, when ChatGPT looked up a name and found 4 or 5 good names. I had to tweak it up a little bit, but it gives me a base on where I can expand my mind, and so then I just take it from there. I'm like, okay, AI gave me this idea. How can I spin it off? That way I'm still using my own creative self. And so like I said, it's here to stay. We just have to embrace it. And like you said, it's helping nonprofits be more professional. It's helping with writing. You know, if I write something, I'll put in ChatGPT and tell it to clean it up, and it does an amazing job. It was still my own wording.
Yeah. Let's don't be afraid of AI.
Yeah.
I think that's the first message is like, learn to harness it. Like, it's not going to go away. It's only going to increase. And so don't be afraid of it, because you hear that a lot. You know, and we could sit here and talk about history of like all these inventions that came along and said, well, that's going to eliminate, you know, whatever, you know, so it's not going away. We have to learn how to harness it. It's really important. I think we also have to learn how to teach it, right? And how to manage it. Like, I think that's really important, is how you prompt AI, or how are you going to be able to get the most out of AI, and in doing that, that all starts to come into play. We use AI. So like, we use it a lot for learning. Like when we walk into a new vertical, or maybe we're going to try to work for a company, or that we've never been in that market before, AI is great for like really bridging the gap. And there's all this lingo, right? There's all this lingo that you have to learn in certain markets. And so it's really good for like closing that down fast.
Yeah.
It's also really good for scaling. So like if I'm trying to grow my business and I have 10 employees, AI can help us do more work, you know, but it's like what we're talking about. It's like we're still writing. We might throw it into AI and ask AI to edit it or to look at it.
Yeah.
But we're still authoring, doing that. It's not like we're just like going to AI and saying, AI, do all this, you know.
Well, it's a strange new world, and of course in the journalism world, we're really careful to say we don't use AI to generate our coverage, but it's been a tool to help us be more effective and efficient, and I think that same thing could be true for organizations in town.
One more. Can I say one more thing?
We got to wrap up, unfortunately.
Oh, a really good one.
This has been a great conversation, and I again want to thank Jeff Huffine, Nathan Hogg, Alison Zajdel for joining me for this conversation today. I've enjoyed it. I hope people have learned things. You've been watching In Focus on Whitewater Community Television, WGTV Channel 11. There's more information about the show on WCTV.info. Thanks for joining us today.